Today, I want to talk to you about how the smallest companies win, how AI is rewriting work, hiring, and pay. Let me start with a story from Semaphore. In December 2023, Justin Smith, the company's CEO and co-founder, went on the DigiDays podcast to talk about Semaphore's first full year. At the time, the company had roughly 70 to 75 employees. Smith said one of the Semaphore's investors gave him a simple piece of advice. The investor said, "Do not hire another person for as long as you possibly can." The point was not that a company should never grow. The point was that leaders often treat hiring as the first answer to every problem. And you may have heard it. It goes something like, "The project is falling behind, so hire someone. The team is overwhelmed, so hire someone." Well, what the investor wanted Semaphore to ask was a harder question. How far can we push the people and resources we already have before we add more? That interview came out before most companies had fully understood what generative AI was going to do to workplaces. Now, that advice sounds less like startup discipline and more like a preview of the next era of business. It used to be, how many people can we afford to hire? Now, the question is more like, what is the smallest number of people we need to produce the same result? And in some cases, can we produce even better results with fewer people? And that is a major shift. For most of modern business history, headcount was treated as a proof of strength. A company with 500 people looked a lot more impressive than a company with 50. A large department signaled importance. A big headquarters, layers of management, thousands of employees suggested scale, wealth, and dominance. But today, AI is starting to reverse that symbolism. A large workforce may soon raise a different question. It goes like, why does this company still need so many people? And for an example, Shopify made that question explicit. Shopify CEO Toby Lutke told managers that before they asked for more headcount, they needed to prove that AI could not do the work. That reverses the burden of proof. In the old model, a manager may say, "We have more work. I need another employee." In the new model, it says, "First, show me that work can be eliminated, automated, redesigned, or absorbed by people already using AI. Only then do we discuss another hire." And so that is not just another hiring policy. It's a new theory of the company. In the future, the strongest company may no longer be the one with the most people. It may be the one who creates the most value with the fewest people. And so now I want to connect this to something Brad Stone writes about in his book, Amazon Unbound. In the book, he describes Amazon's compensation culture as one built around long-term ownership. For years, Amazon was known for paying lower cash salaries than some competitors while giving employees stock. And the idea was simple. You may not get the highest paycheck today, but you have equity. If the company becomes dramatically more valuable, your stock becomes dramatically more valuable too. Employees were not only workers, they were owners. They were expected to think long-term, accept intensity, and help build something that would far outgrow their immediate salary. That model made sense in a world where scaling a company usually meant adding more people. And so the company grew, the workforce grew, the value of the business grew, and employees hoped their equity would rise with it. Today, AI creates a new question. What happens when the company becomes more valuable because it does not add more people? What happens when 10 employees can create the output that once required 40? What happens when one person using AI can handle research, analysis, writing, design, operations, and customer support that once required several different roles? Who captures that value? Does the employee get paid more because that employee is now responsible for more output? Does the employee receive more equity because each person matters more? Or does the company say the AI created the leverage, so the worker should not receive much more at all? That may be one of the biggest workplace arguments of the next decade. When one employee using AI produces the work of 5 people, is that employee 5 times more valuable, or has the work simply become cheaper? The company and the employee may answer that question very differently. And this is where the pressure begins to move through the entire economy. Small companies are already using AI to unlock productivity they could not before. Small business may not have the budget for a full-time writer, designer, analyst, developer, researcher, and assistant. But with AI, 1 or 2 people can perform the parts of all of those jobs. A small company can complete projects that used to sit untouched for months. It can create more content, analyze more data, build basic software, answer customers faster, produce presentations, draft contracts, research competitors, automate administrative work. For a lot of companies, that is pent-up productivity. The company always had ideas. It always had work that needed to get done. It simply did not have the money, time, or people to do it. AI releases some of that trapped capacity. And guess what? The pressure then spreads. A small competitor starts moving faster without adding payroll. A mid-sized company sees that and has to respond. And guess what? A public company sees smaller competitors achieving similar output with fewer employees. Soon, investors begin asking questions. Why is your headcount still rising? Why are your operating expenses still so high? And why has AI spending increased without improved margin? Why does this department still have 100 people when a competitor appears to be doing similar work with 40? And this creates a competitive ratchet. Once one company proves that a job can be done by 6 people instead of 10, every similar company must explain why it still employs 10. That does not mean that all those companies are right to cut, but it does mean that they will feel pressure to justify every role. And that pressure will affect compensation. I believe we are likely to see a much wider gap between average employees and exceptional employees. The most valuable person in a company may not be the narrow specialist who performs one task well. Instead, it may be the high-agency generalist who can manage an entire outcome. This is the person who understands the business. They can write, they can analyze, they can communicate, they can work across departments, and they know how to use AI. They know when AI is wrong. They can bring in specialists when needed. And most importantly, they can be trusted to own the finished result. Think of that person less like a traditional employee and more like a general contractor. A general contractor may not perform each task personally. However, they decide what needs to happen. They assign work. They bring in the right tools and the specialists. They inspect the results. They solve problems. And they remain accountable for the final product. This is what more general workers may become. They will direct people, software, contractors, and AI agents. Their value will come less from completing one narrow task and more from coordinating many kinds of work towards one result. This will also cause roles to merge. In the future, a communication employee may be expected to research, write, edit videos, manage distribution, and build lightweight workflows. A marketer may be expected to understand analytics, customer research, and basic design. Someone in operations may need to manage software, vendors, documentations, reporting, and AI tools. And job descriptions will become wider. And the phrase, "that's not my job," will be harder to defend. That doesn't mean that specialists will disappear. In fact, great specialists may become even more valuable. As AI makes average work cheaper, truly difficult expertise becomes more important. The company may not need a full-time specialist in every department, but when it faces a legal problem, major negotiation, or some technical difficulty, it will still need someone of deep expertise. So, companies of the future may have fewer full-time specialists, more broad generalists, and fractional experts who are brought in when needed. The middle layer then is the most exposed. The roles built around routine, execution, coordination, things like summarizing and moving information from one person to another are the easiest to compress. And so that brings us to young workers. All of this means that the first job is about to change. Companies may be less patient for employees who require long periods of training before they become useful. That is a harsh reality, but it's already becoming visible. When AI can handle things like basic research, first drafts, summaries, and routine customer responses, companies may decide they need fewer junior workers. But for companies, this may create a serious problem. Junior workers is how people learn. In a traditional system, a junior employee may write the first draft, a manager may edit it, and a senior leader makes the final decision. Over time, that's how the junior employee learns how the manager thinks. Then that person becomes the manager. AI may remove much of the work that used to train people. And so this means a company can become more efficient today while destroying its own future leadership pipeline. And so that's why I think internships may become more important. Internships may become the new entry-level job. They give companies a lower risk way to test judgment, initiative, communication, reliability, and AI fluency before offering a full-time role. They also give young people a chance to learn inside a real company before employers expect them to operate independently. Again, there's a danger. Internships can become a filter that favor people who can afford low pay, temporary housing, and months of uncertainty. If internships become the main entrance into professional work, companies will have to think seriously about whether those programs are paid, structured, and accessible. Young workers should also evaluate their first employers differently. They shouldn't ask questions like, what is the salary? What is the title? Or how famous or big is this company? Some better questions might be, will someone teach me? Will I get real responsibility? Will I see how experienced people make decisions? Will I be able to use AI to become more capable? Or will I simply spend my time correcting machine output? Does the company promote from within? Will I leave this job with stronger judgment, stronger skills, and work I can point to? The first job is increasingly a choice of learning system. Smaller company that gives you real ownership may be more valuable than a famous company when no one has time to develop you. Now, let's talk about how companies will measure all of this. The most obvious metric is revenue per employee. Take the company's annual revenue and divide it by the number of employees. That gives you a rough measure of how much revenue each employee supports. Companies may also track gross profit per employee, free cash flow per employee, customer per employee, and operating expenses per employee. Enterprise value per employee will also attract attention. That metric takes the market value of the business and divide it by headcount. It can create striking numbers, especially for software and AI companies. But it is also volatile because market valuations move quickly. For internal management, revenue, gross profit, and cash flow per employee are more useful. The chart I would watch over the next 5 years is simple. Put company revenue on one line, put gross profits on another, put headcount on another, and put AI software spending on a fourth line. The pattern many companies want is clear. Revenues rise sharply, gross profits rise sharply, AI spending rises, and headcount stays flat or grows much more slowly. The gap between revenue and headcount is the real story. The gap is where the productivity gains live. But companies need to be careful. The smallest possible company is not automatically the best company. A company can cut headcount so aggressively that it begins to damage the business. Customer service might get worse. People burn out. Errors increase. No one has time to train new employees. And institutional knowledge disappears. Innovation slows because everyone is busy maintaining the current system. The company becomes efficient on paper and fragile in practice. And Klarna offers a useful warning. Company heavily promoted the use of AI in customer service and reduced dependence on human support. Later, its CEO acknowledged that too much focus on cost had hurt service quality, and the company began bringing more human support back into the system. And that is the limit of this idea. Goal should not be the fewest employees possible. The goal should be the highest durable value per employee. Durable is the important word. A business has to preserve quality. It has to preserve trust. It has to preserve the ability to train people. It has to preserve human judgment. It has to preserve enough capacity to survive a crisis. So companies should not only measure productivity, they should also measure error rates, customer satisfaction, burnout, rework, turnover, training, and the amount of time humans spend fixing AI input. Revenue per employee can tell you whether a company is lean. It cannot tell you whether that company is healthy. Finally, the deeper question is who benefits from all of this? AI may create companies where every remaining employee is more productive, but that does not guarantee those employees will be better paid. It does not guarantee that they will receive more equity. It does not guarantee they will feel more secure. And it does not guarantee they will have better careers. All depends on how companies choose to divide the gains. The old bargain was work hard, accept some sacrifice, and help build a company that becomes more valuable. The new bargain may be take on a wider job, use AI constantly, move faster, and carry more responsibility. If that is the new bargain, employees will rightfully ask, what do I receive in return? Is it more pay? Do I get more ownership, more flexibility, faster advancement? Can I work alone, or is it just more work? That may be the central labor question of the AI era. For most of corporate history, a growing workforce was proof that a company was succeeding. AI is quickly reversing the symbolism. Investors may increasingly view every additional employee as a cost that must be justified against automation, software, contractors, and a smaller group of more capable people. The companies that handle this well will not simply cut. They will redesign work. They will pay exceptional people for the value they create. They will build real training systems. They will use internships and apprenticeships to develop the next generation. They will keep specialists where judgment truly matters. And they will measure quality as seriously as they measure efficiency. Companies that handle it badly will chase headcount reductions, overlook their best workers, destroy their talent pipeline, and call it innovation. So, final takeaways. The question going forward is not simply how small can a company become? The better question will be how much value can a small group of capable people create without making the company weaker, the customer experience worse, and the future workforce impossible to develop. That is the experiment every company is about to run. And over the next 5 years, the winners may not be the companies with the most people. They may be the companies that are best at deciding which work should be done by people, which work should be done by machines, and how the value created by both should be shared.